is where we discuss the possibilities.
Hey guys, I'm Dr. Kori Probst with the Diet Doc, health psychologist and vice president, and I'm here with Dr. Joe Klemczewski, founder of the Diet Doc. Welcome back to the Diet Doc Life Mastery Podcast. We are diving back into another one of our segments called Macro Mastery. And today, Joe, we're discussing eating in restaurants.
Right.
So this is a topic that comes up often with our clients and within our community group. How do I do it? How do I maximize the experience but not shoot myself in the foot in terms of the goals that I have, and what can it look like when I go out to eat?
So I thought this would be a fun topic, Kori, because you and I have had some pretty knockdown, drag out brawls over this topic. We have had some contentious discussion about how we should behave, what's polite and appropriate versus just saying this is the way it has to be. I have to be able to order the food I want, no matter how crazy I drive my server and the cooks and that kind of thing. So
we certainly approach it very differently.
We do. So we're gonna bring the yin and the yang to this topic and show all sides of the spectrum.
Awesome.
But here's what really made me think about this. When I was in Italy recently, Annalisa Garatti, who was one of my hosts, along with Christian Montevecchi, she's in contest prep mode. She's getting ready for the Pro World Championships, and she did it in a very delightful way. I'll say that, and it made me rethink my position. So I might be moving a little bit closer to you on this topic. I'll explain. So she would often call ahead, especially at this conference center we were at, having this big event, and she had already talked to the head chef, the maitre d' kind of guy who was taking care of everything, and he knew this is somebody who is a high level athlete. I mean, no different than an Olympic athlete or somebody else, and has specific desires, and was very willing to meet those. So I think it helped that she didn't just show up, sit down, and start, creating demands in that kind of environment.
Yes.
So that was an interesting thing. We spoke with Joe Johnston, a licensed therapist, at an event recently, and he even mentioned that he's got specific places he likes to go because he's got that rapport. They know he likes to eat a certain way. They've even got the Joe special, and so again, it just kind of diffuses everything. Everybody knows, hey, this is what this guy likes, and it's cool. Everybody's on board.
Yep.
So explain to me what your mindset has been, how it might have shifted over time, and just your general experience in trying to navigate both sides of this river.
So I love to eat out. I love to try new places and new types of foods, and I have been in that situation too, though, where I have very strong physique goals and I'm working towards a competition or something that really demands that I pay a lot more attention to what I'm putting in my body. And I tend to land on the side of I'm paying for this meal, and there is someone who is going to be taking care of me at this dining establishment. And as long as I'm not in a massive group and am causing a ton of delays because of the manner in which I'm going to order, I am unafraid to ask for things like, could you please put that on the side? Or could you leave the sauce off? Or may I have a side salad instead of the rice, for example? Because things like that, the way that I look at it is we're in a society right now where, and especially where I live in San Diego, California, people have very specific needs and desires around how they're going to treat their health. And I think a lot of servers and wait staff and restaurant establishments just expect that they're going to have to make modifications for the people who come into their establishments. So maybe I'm justifying it in some ways, but at the same time, when I go out to eat, I see it happening more and more often. And you see it on the menus too. You're given more choices because there's gluten-free, and now there's dairy-free, and people they're wanting to be able to have it their way more often.
Okay, so I do want to spend part of our time talking about the true ins and outs of how to do this. How do I achieve a lower fat diet, or how do I get to these goals with the menu that I'm offered? But so to help somebody like me, you're going to be my therapist for a minute here. We're going to role model this. So it's just normal. Like that's our relationship.
You guys are getting a little peek into our relationship.
Yeah. So I'm introverted by nature, and part of that is there's a little bit of a social wallflower aspect where I don't want to create waves. I don't want to be the guy, like you said, who's
to yourself.
What's that?
You don't want to call attention to yourself.
Yeah, and especially in that way that everybody's like, what's wrong with this dude? Like, I'm trying to get a meal here, and he's gumming up the whole system. But, there's also, even to the serving staff, the cooks, people like that, I'm just like, you know what, whatever. I'll just eat whatever's good. I'll order the best I can, and I consider this being polite. I'm not necessarily feeling in a position of servitude, but I'm just being a polite person, and I'm going to take care of that myself. So, what, if I need to take the cheese off, or if I need to say, this is probably 20 more grams of fat than I wanted, but I'll just, eat a little bit less later. That's how I perceive it. But I know we have clients that you would say, no, I want you to be specific with your goals. I want you to feel like you have control. So, so speak to me and my people who would say like, nah, I'm okay. I'm good. Whatever.
Do you consider yourself a garbage disposal?
Kinda. that is one of my basic functions in my family. Yes.
Okay, this is gonna take more than like 15 minutes of therapy, Joe.
I'll sign up for 6 sessions.
That's your goal. That's Tia. Tia is the garbage disposal. Let her take on that role.
I eat all the leftovers, and I do share some with her. Yeah.
And you know what? We could look back at, maybe you've got some old patterns of behavior and a strong belief that you shouldn't waste food. And I know that you as a person too, you really care about the experience of everyone else that you're with.
Certainly.
If you're in a drive-thru and no one else is behind you, then Joe is probably going to be the guy who's going to order the burger without the cheese and without the mayo. But if there's a long line behind you, you're going to take those things into consideration and have that thought, well, when I get back to the office, then I'll just scrape off the cheese and wipe off the mayo with a napkin or something like that. And I'm not going to tell you that you need to be any different than that. Okay, that's going to affect probably the rate at which you're going to meet your goals. But if you're okay with that, I'm not going to say that that's the wrong way to do it, because that's a great character strength to have at the same time, which is consideration for your fellow man.
So if somebody needs a little bit of empowerment, though, like if you had a client and you're saying, you know what, I really need you to feel more comfortable doing this because of your own autonomy and your goals.
Well, I think that a lot of times they just don't know what to say. They don't know how to ask for what they need. They need the actual language and the words. And so we would practice doing it. I want you to pretend like we're sitting in a restaurant right now and you want to order this salad, but you see that it's got cheese and whole eggs and bacon and ranch dressing on it. So let's practice how you'd like to ask for that meal to be prepared a little bit differently and in a manner that's going to be appropriate for what you would like to consume.
So my brain just conjured up a scene from The Other Guys with Will Ferrell. You
Okay.
may not know this. But
Well, that has Will
his
Ferrell.
alter ego Gator. I'll just throw that out there. Anybody who knows that scene can figure that's how I would be in making that happen. But
We should
so,
put that, like a YouTube link in the show notes for.
there you go. Yeah, this is how he would do that. But so let's say I'm at this restaurant and I'm just looking at the menu and I need something that's as low in fat as I would be able to accomplish. What are you looking for? What kinds of dishes? What would you be asking the server to do for you?
So I'm looking at a menu and I'm looking for lean. So I'm looking for lean protein sources. If I see salmon, I'm thinking that's higher fat, probably not going to go there. I'm looking for chicken breast, pork, anything with loin in the name. If it's red meat, if it's going to be a steak, I'm looking for sirloin or a fillet rather than a T-bone or something that's going to be more marbled. That's going to be your higher fat meats. In terms of seafood, I'm looking for a white fish or I'm looking for something like shrimp. And I'm looking for terms like buttered or sauce or slathered or smothered.
Is that a word on the menu? Slathered? We slather this.
Maybe there's something attractive about that word, like slathered. That sounds really yummy. So it can't really be good for you, right? Scampi, that's a big no if you want to keep fat lower, because that's butter. So I'm looking for dressing.
I thought a scampi was like a fish or something. What? Scampi is butter?
Well, so shrimp scampi is shrimp like broiled in butter. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Very heavy and decadent. Yes.
I'm going to be so much leaner after this podcast. I'm ready.
So all of those words, guys, typically mean higher fat. Look for terms like grilled. Then you're probably, and this is iffy because a lot of times it's not an open flame grill that they're using. It's flat, and so there's going to be a lot of grease that just collects on the grill. So you can ask them that. But an open flame sort of grill is going to allow the fat to drip down off of your actual food. So I'm looking for terms like that. Grilled, broiled is usually a good way to cook. But then to your next question, like how would I actually order and what questions would I ask? Sometimes menu items don't give you all of the information that you would really want. So 2 questions that I ask frequently is what comes on that? Because it may say comes with side salad. Well, it could just be lettuce and tomato, or it could be lettuce and tomato and cheese and already has dressing on it. So what comes on that will give you very valuable information, because then you can say, could I please have the dressing on the side? You can say, do you have any other like lower fat dressings available? And you could ask for that. And then on the side, you could say, could you please leave the cheese completely off? If it has croutons, and you don't need the extra carbs and fat, can you just leave the croutons off? Those are easy to pick off. So for a guy like you who's a garbage disposal, you could just leave those on and then pick them off when your salad comes to the table. Someone else at the table might want your croutons.
There you go.
We got to consider that too. My boyfriend needs carbs. He can have my croutons. The other question that I will ask is, how is that prepared? Because it's not always going to say on the menu that this is grilled or this is broiled or this is baked in butter or whatever. And so that's a great question. How is it prepared? And a lot of times the wait staff won't even know. And so it's been my experience that they will be very happy to go ask the chef, ask the how it's prepared and come back. I've even asked, not when I'm in a massive group, because I don't want the waiter having to run back and forth and spend a ton of time. Do you know how big of a chicken breast is that? Or how many ounces of fish is that comes with this meal? And they usually don't know, but they will go ask the chef and they'll come back with an answer for me.
You know, that actually surprised me in Italy. Of course, I'm around a lot of people who have the little pocket and purse scales that you can just unfold and weigh your food at a restaurant. But Annalisa even went to the point of asking the waitress or waiter, you know, how many ounces is that? And they would, of course, every kitchen and restaurant has scales like that could do that. Mm-hmm. And she was very forthright in just saying, you know, could you please, you know, give me what I want. You know, I don't care what the menu says. What I need is 5 ounces of grilled chicken breast and this many, you know, 200 grams of green beans, you know, rinsed off. If there's in butter, just rinse it, you know, anything like that. And again, I mean, maybe this is because it's in Europe, but everybody was just so agreeable and polite and sometimes even inquisitive. Like, yeah, that's interesting. Like, you know, does that really work? Is that, you know, and there were never any problems. And I think maybe it's because I'm in the Midwest, and when you start asking for things in a lot of detail, especially from a health perspective,
you're like,
they're just not into it.
It's foreign to them. They haven't been asked those questions before, so they're like, I don't know. But you brought up 2 good points. One of them is that we shouldn't feel glued to the menu offerings. Just like you indicated, it's oftentimes very easy to just say, you know what, can I have a grilled chicken breast and a salad? You know, that's not a special menu item that you have to pick from, but they have those foods. And so it's very easy for them to throw a chicken breast on a plate and grill it without any butter or oil. That's what I'll usually ask for. And then the other thing is that I will ask for because I always I'll typically get a veggie instead of the starch because I don't need it. And I'll ask for that vegetable to be steamed without any butter or oil. And there are some restaurants that say, well, it's already like pre-made, it's already mixed together. And then I'll just get something else because I don't want all that extra fat.
Yeah, there were some points where she would even ask for something to be prepared differently, and they could. You know, it really depends on the type of rapport you build on the spot, because we know we can rub people the wrong way, and all of a sudden there becomes this relationship initially that's very confrontational. It's like, well, who are you? I don't want to do this. But if you're so friendly and easygoing, I mean, these people want to do well. Typically, that's a human character strength. Is, you know, even a cook or a chef wants to impress you. Like, sure, I can do that. I'll do it exactly how you want. You want it this way, and if you get them on your side, and that's why the value of even, you know, coming back and rewarding those places with your business over and over and having that long-term relationship can be helpful.
The language you use and just practicing it, I think, is very helpful. When I go into a restaurant and I know I'm going to have to make some modifications, it usually is. I get very friendly with the person, and I will tell them up front, I'm like, I really don't want to bug you here, but there are a few things I'm wondering if you could modify for me. When you can approach it like that, and it doesn't come off as demanding, like, you're here to serve me and this is how I want my food. Yes, you are exactly right. They are typically very accommodating, and they want to prepare your food the way that will make you happy. So
the one thing I want to leave you guys with is that all of this has to be undergirded with a mindset that when you're walking into a restaurant, if you have a specific goal, I mean, sometimes it is an indulgent meal by design. You're going out for a birthday party, you've saved some carbs or fat for this, it's part of a relaxed meal, all amazingly perfect, and you should still stay in control of that. But when you are trying to pursue a goal, this is where a lot of times the walls just come down. It's like, oh, I'm in a restaurant, I'll eat whatever. I'll eat that French fry, I'll do this. And we just become a different person. And that can't happen. You have to decide, look, this is wherever I'm at, whether it's at grandma's house or the drive-thru or this great restaurant, this is how I'm going to eat because my long-term goal is much more important than the next 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still going to have great food. You're going to have a great experience. But there have been times I've seen in myself and other people that you're either on or you're off.
Yes.
And this is a time, if you're trying to resolutely accomplish this goal, it should just be a no-brainer. You're going to do it no matter what.
Well, and I think it's valuable to remember that, and I've said this before, and not just in restaurant situations, but it's not the Last Supper, guys. This is not the last time that you're ever going to have the opportunity to go to this specific restaurant or have this specific meal. And so that sense of urgency, like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get this again, I think that pushes us towards that. Just, okay, forget it, whatever. I'm just going to eat, and I'll figure it out later. And like you said, that's not where we want to go. On the practical side, guys, again, come back to, you're in a situation, and if you're going out to eat and there's a lot of people, ask yourself, what might be difficult about this situation for me? And how can I prepare ahead of time? Is it going to be because the people I'm eating with, they don't care? They don't necessarily have health and fitness goals that they're working towards, and that it's going to be a bunch of, decadent appetizers all over the table? How am I going to handle that? What do I want to be able to say to these people? Especially if they're offering, that I have some when the desserts come around. Have in your mind already how you're going to behave and what you're going to say in that situation. Really quick too, I just want to, because Joe, I think it's important to just give some very practical tips to help people know what to do in situations. Like, have an appetizer for a meal. Split a meal with someone that you're going to a restaurant with. Get a big salad and get a main dish and split those two things. You and I, Joe, when we've traveled, we do this all the time. The thing that I have to remember, though, is that Joe needs more food than I do. So me eating exactly half of the meal, very, very easy for me, but oftentimes not really necessary. So I don't think a lot of people think about that. If you're a couple, a heterosexual couple, yeah.
I just got more food when traveling now. I'm glad you came to that realization.
Oh, and you've never really said anything. Typically, you're giving me like 2/3 of it. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. So much great information here, guys. I hope I was very, very happy, Kori, with what you contributed, and you won me over. I'm gonna move more toward your side of the field here and be more deliberate in how I order food. Awesome. So I'll report on how that goes. But thank you guys for being a part of our podcast. We're looking forward to more comments so we can keep bringing you the things that you want to talk about. And we're going to see you next time. Thank you. Thanks, guys.